6 months ago, the best sodium-ion battery in the world hit 175 watt-hours per kilogram. The industry called it impressive, a milestone, a sign that sodium was finally getting serious. Then Goshen published 261, not 180, not 261 watt-hours per kilogram from sodium. That number sits above BYD's Blade battery. It matches Tesla's 4,680, the cell Tesla spent half a decade and billions of dollars engineering. And Goshen built it from one of the cheapest, most abundant materials on the planet. Right now, every lithium battery manufacturer in the world is staring at this number. LG, Samsung, Panasonic. None of them have a public response yet. This video will explain exactly what Goshen built, how they built it, and what it means for every EV, every grid battery, and every energy company operating today. To understand why this announcement hit so hard, you need to go back to the core argument that kept sodium-ion batteries out of the EV conversation for so long. Lithium-ion won the energy density race early. LFP, lithium iron phosphate, became the workhorse of the EV industry. Affordable, stable, relatively safe. BYD built an empire on it. CATL scaled it to hundreds of gigawatt-hours of production. And the number everyone kept pointing to was around 190 watt-hours per kilogram, the benchmark that defined what was good enough for a modern electric car. Sodium-ion, by comparison, sat below 160 Wh/kg for most of its commercial history. That gap, small on paper, massive in practice, meant shorter range, heavier packs, less competitive vehicles. Every time someone brought up sodium as an alternative, the rebuttal was immediate. The energy density just isn't there. And they weren't wrong until now. 6 months ago, CATL, the largest battery manufacturer on the planet, revealed their Nastra sodium-ion cell at 175 Wh/kg. The industry took notice. That single announcement forced a genuine rethink of where sodium technology was heading. For the first time, the gap between sodium and LFP had closed to a point where real-world applications became plausible. But CATL's 175 Wh/kg was not the end of the story. It was the opening act. Goshen High-Tech is not a startup. Founded in 2006 and headquartered in China, the company operates 20 factories worldwide, and by end of 2025, had reached 400 gigawatt-hours of energy storage capacity across its global network. This is a company with real infrastructure, real production lines, and a track record that cannot be dismissed. Volkswagen Group, fully aware of that track record, currently owns 30% of Goshen. That stake is not a passive investment. It is a strategic lifeline, and what Goshen just revealed explains exactly why Volkswagen made that bet. Goshen announced 3 distinct sodium-ion batteries under a single platform they call Nascent, backed by over 90 patents covering cathode materials, anode architecture, and cell chemistry. Battery 1. The game changer. Energy density, 261 watt-hours per kilogram. Targeted at electric passenger vehicles and drones. Let that number sit for a moment. CATL's Nastra was 175 Wh/kg 6 months ago. BYD's latest Blade battery, widely regarded as one of the most advanced LFP cells in mass production, sits at 192 Wh/kg. This sodium-ion cell surpasses both. It matches the energy density of Tesla's 4,680 cylindrical cells, which were specifically engineered to push the boundaries of high-performance EV chemistry. And it does this with sodium, a material so abundant, it can be extracted from seawater, compared to lithium, which requires complex mining operations across increasingly contested supply chains. There is no longer an energy density penalty for choosing sodium over lithium. Iron phosphate, that trade-off no longer exists. Battery 2. The cold weather specialist, rated at 162 Wh/kg. This version is built for commercial vehicles, construction equipment, and buses operating in extreme environments. It functions at temperatures as low as -50 degrees Celsius. a specification that makes it uniquely suitable for Arctic logistics, high-altitude infrastructure, and heavy industry in northern climates, where conventional lithium cells degrade rapidly. For fleet operators in Alaska, Scandinavia, or mountainous regions across Central Asia, this is not a marginal improvement. It is a category-defining product. Battery 3, the infrastructure play. Gotion did not publish an energy density figure for this version. They didn't need to. The number that matters here is 20,000 cycles. 20,000 full charge, discharge cycles before the cell reaches end of life. For context, CATL's sodium battery for grid storage, already considered exceptional, targets 10,000 cycles. Gotion has doubled it. At a standard daily cycle rate, 20,000 cycles translates to a calendar life measured in decades. For utility scale energy storage, that lifespan fundamentally reshapes the economics of grid investment. And all three batteries are in gigawatt. How a scale production right now, across 2 megafactories in China. The engineering behind 261 kg in a sodium cell is not magic, but it does require a fundamental rethink of how the cell is constructed at the molecular level. Traditional sodium-ion batteries struggled with two compounding problems. First, sodium ions are physically larger than lithium ions, which means they require wider channels in the cathode material to move efficiently during charge and discharge cycles. Wider channels meant lower packing density, which meant lower energy per unit of mass. Second, the anode materials that worked well with lithium, primarily graphite, do not accommodate sodium ions effectively, forcing engineers toward less efficient alternatives, like hard carbon. Gotion's approach addresses both problems simultaneously. On the cathode side, Gotion's patent portfolio references sodium manganese iron pyrophosphate, a polyanion-based compound that provides structural stability while allowing for higher sodium loading. Unlike layered oxide cathodes, which can be sensitive to moisture and air exposure during manufacturing, polyanion structures offer better thermal stability and longer cycle life. That directly explains the 20,000 cycle figure in the storage battery. On the anode side, Gotion has implemented an anode-less architecture. This is the same concept Tesla has been researching for its next generation of lithium cells. By eliminating the traditional anode host material entirely, the cell reduces weight, reduces manufacturing complexity, and allows the sodium ions to plate directly onto the current collector during charging. The result is a meaningful jump in energy density and a reduction in material costs, because you are simply using less material per cell. The safety profile reinforces the engineering credibility. Gotion subjected these cells to an 8 mm steel nail penetration test, a standard but brutal benchmark for thermal runaway resistance, and the cells showed no ignition. They then applied 400 degrees Celsius of external heat. Still no ignition. For a high-energy, density cell in a vehicle application, that safety margin is not just reassuring. It is commercially essential. The combination of polyanion cathode chemistry, anode-less architecture, and sodium's inherent electrochemical properties has produced something the industry said was structurally impossible. A sodium cell that competes directly with premium lithium chemistry on energy density while retaining sodium's fundamental cost advantage. The competitive implications reach in multiple directions at once. For premium lithium chemistries, NMC, NCA, the high nickel formulations used by LG Energy Solution, Samsung's DI, and Panasonic, the value proposition just became harder to defend. These cells were justified by their energy density advantage over cheaper chemistries. That advantage has now been neutralized by a sodium cell that costs significantly less to produce. CATL's own pricing targets suggest sodium-ion cells could reach $19 per kilowatt, HAR by 2030. Current LFP cells from leading Chinese manufacturers sit around $55 per kilowatt, HAR, that is roughly 1/3 the cost, at equivalent or superior energy density. For Volkswagen, the strategic logic is now undeniable. The group has been under immense financial pressure, declining margins, rising EV transition costs, and intensifying competition from Chinese automakers, who benefit from exactly this kind of vertically integrated battery supply chain. Owning 30 PHN-TRM of Gotion does not just give Volkswagen access to competitive cells, it gives them access to a cost structure that Western competitors cannot match through conventional lithium supply chains. For the broader EV market, the most significant consequence may not be in passenger cars at all. It may be in energy storage. A sodium-ion cell with 20,000 cycles, and strong safety credentials at 1/3 the cost of lithium does not just compete with grid storage batteries. It potentially displaces natural gas peaker plants on pure economics, without subsidies, without mandates, purely on levelized cost of storage. That is the scenario where the energy transition accelerates faster than most forecasts currently model. The analysts who spent the last decade dismissing sodium-ion as a laboratory curiosity are now working through the same numbers. The math has changed. There is a version of the future that was written years ago, one where lithium remained unchallenged, where sodium stayed on the margins, where the energy transition moved slowly enough for legacy industries to adapt at their own pace. Gotion just tore that version up. 261 watt HARs per kilogram, 20,000 cycles. Gigawatt HAR production lines already running. A cost trajectory that points toward $19 per kilowatt HAR within this decade. The technology is not coming, it is here. The production lines are not being planned, they exist. What changes now is not just which battery wins a spec sheet comparison. What changes is who controls the economics of energy. In vehicles, in infrastructure, in everything that runs on stored power. The experts said sodium would never be ready. It turns out sodium was just waiting for the rest of the world to catch up.